is on.
Yeah.
Yep,
Can you
it's
hear me?
on. Yep.
Okay.
That's much better.
Okay. So thank you for coming to our session about downtown revitalization through public art. My name is Courtney Kramlinger. I'm just going to give the introductions to our presenters today. We have Tami Paulsen. Tami is a 1980 graduate of the University of Minnesota, where she earned degrees in business, marketing, and management. Throughout her 40-plus year career, she has successfully led several area companies while also serving as a passionate community advocate and volunteer. Tami has served on the boards of multiple area nonprofits, and in 2006 to 2007, she was the co-chair of Envision 2020, Greater Mankato strategic planning effort that has provided an important roadmap for many of the community's strategic planning efforts, the transformational initiatives, including the redevelopment of the city center. In 2008, she co-founded CityArt Mankato, a successful public art program that has greatly contributed to downtown vibrancy and vitality. We also have Wyatt Miller to her left. He is the program manager for Twin Rivers Council for the Arts. He oversees the various programs that Twin Rivers puts on, such as the Best in Art series, silo art initiatives, and art boards, as well as coordinates the organization's volunteers. Born and raised in Mankato, the local community has been a key influence in his life. His passion for community has motivated much of his work in the Mankato nonprofit sector, and continues to do so now that he is part of the Twin Rivers team. And then myself, Courtney Kramlinger. I've been working for the City of Mankato within the Community Development Department since 2013. I assist with the coordination of economic development and housing programs and arts and culture initiatives. I also have worked on city planning documents that identify public art goals and have collaborated on public art projects with area nonprofit organizations and serve as the city staff liaison of the City Art Committee. So we're going to talk through different planning efforts that we've had throughout the community over the years that look at public art through downtown revitalization and different examples of different initiatives and projects that have happened in Mankato. This is just an example of where we were. These photos are from about the 1990s, early 2000s. You can see there's a lot of pavement. It's just sidewalks, roads, parking lots. The street lights, if you can see, it's kind of blurry, but they're like, what you'd see along the highway. Just not very aesthetically pleasing. Just gives you an idea of where we were. Whereas today, in the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a significant amount of beautification in our city center, public art, there's events that are happening, and it's all because of all these different planning efforts that we're going to talk about that have highlighted all these goals and the community coming together for these initiatives.
Okay, can you hear me okay? So how did we get from where we were to where we are today? And if you've been experiencing our city center, it looks very different than where it was. And there have been, like Courtney said, many different initiatives that have taken place throughout the last decade or so, but it really all started with Envision 2020. Envision 2020, which I was fortunate to be asked to be co-chair, was an amazing experience, but really it was a very collaborative, community-based, very comprehensive strategic planning process that involved 3 distinct phases. We began pre-planning for this in 2005. It took almost a year to pre-plan. We kicked it off in January of 2006 and submitted our final report and implementation process in September of 2006. So it was an 18 to 20 month full process. Envision 2020 really provided a comprehensive long-range plan and a vision of what Greater Mankato community wanted to be in the future. This was our roadmap. And why was Envision 2020 so critical to so many community planning efforts, but especially for the arts, is I can honestly say, I'm from the design industry. My husband and I had an architecture and interior design firm for many years. Aesthetics, livability, art are very important to us. I can honestly say, before Envision 2020, anytime you brought up a public art initiative or art to the city councils and our communities, it really kind of fell on deaf ears. Those projects were considered fluff. They weren't critical services, and they got bypassed. So Envision 2020 really changed all that. That's why it's so critical. As Courtney mentioned, I was co-chair and very deeply involved from the beginning of the process. And although I don't want to talk too much about the process, there's some strategic aspects that I think are helpful to any community sort of initiative that you're trying to kick off that were vital to Envision 2020's incredible success. And the first one is that community outreach was absolutely vital. We all have, or most communities have, you know, the usual, what I call the usual suspects, the people that are always engaged, that get involved, that show up for everything. Well, that's great, you have those people, but to make this community planning process really effective, it involved extensive outreach to give a voice to residents that aren't normally involved in the process. And this was, we knew we were going to come up with major initiatives and major changes and long-range plans that would affect the community, and to achieve the buy-in, we really needed this outreach. It was a difficult process, I can tell you, because like I said, you have the usual suspects that you usually go to that are involved in whatever. In pre-planning, we actually sat down over a series of meetings, and we identified hundreds of people that we wanted to actually invite and recruit to participate in the project. What was really interesting to me is I've served on a lot of boards and so forth. I was used to finding like-minded people working on a project and getting it accomplished. So this was really totally opposite of that. So if we identified the president from US Bank, a conservative businessman, always, you know, dressed in a suit, attended everything, we actually then sat down and we had cards in this process where we identified what I would call the polar opposite person of him, and which was really interesting because many of us didn't even know these people, right? But I will use the term, there is a group of old hippies in town that everyone kind of knows, and so when we identified the bank president, we actually recruited and invited some of those people to attend, and they did, and they were very, very impactful throughout the process. So it was a really interesting process to do that. We invited hundreds and then opened it to the community as well. And throughout the 6 to 9 month actual planning process, we had about 400 stakeholders that stayed actively involved throughout this process. So it was really incredible. And some of these, in the initial stages, they involved weekly and bi-weekly meetings. So to get where we had that many people still at the end was really incredible. We were also really fortunate in a process that we made sure all the major organizations in the community were involved in some aspect. We had school district, higher education, healthcare, the cities, the counties, citizens, community members. Having all those involved throughout, again, helped us to achieve buy-in. Our early meetings, which involved all the stakeholders, were a series of discussions, people raising their hand, what was important to them, where did they think Greater Mankato should be. And as you can imagine, we had, you know, dozens, if not hundreds of ideas. Through a series of meetings and group consensus and discussions, we whittled those down actually to a few key performance areas. As you can see, I won't name them all, but livability, education, etc. And other themes began to appear that were consistent. And we had come up with a mission, which was to attract and retain a superior workforce and provide excellent quality of life. And within that, the importance of an attractive, vibrant downtown became critically important. I mean, that theme came up over and over and over. And that was particularly important to young people that we had involved. We had a lot of MSU students involved. We had high school students involved. It was quite something. So downtown became very important. And then once those KPAs were established, stakeholders broke down into smaller subgroups of areas of interest where they identified priorities and the strategies to accomplish those. As I mentioned, a vibrant downtown was a critical component of this, and downtown revitalization was woven through almost all of the key performance areas that were identified. So whether it was having better livability in the community, downtown became important. Even education, higher ed, trying to recruit students here, a vibrant downtown. So it was really, really woven throughout. And once that was identified as a major theme, we started talking about, well, how do we revitalize downtown? At this time, our downtown, the pictures Courtney showed, don't even show how really unsightly it was. We had a lot of boarded up storefronts. Almost all the businesses, a lot of them had moved to the new development on top of the hill where General Growth Mall had built a new mall. Downtown was very unsightly. So, you know, we talked about things, beautification, increasing amenities, getting housing down here, the importance of preserving our historic structures that were remaining because where the intergovernmental center is now, they had taken down our historic downtown and put a mall at one time. I don't know if many of you are aware of that, but so preserving the historic structures that we currently still had at that time, that became very, very important. And then to make the downtown walkable, sustainable. So those were key strategies that came out, and at the end of Envision 2020, basically we said, okay, this downtown revitalization has such a long way to go. It has so much to accomplish that we need to develop a further plan, which Courtney will talk about in the City Center Renaissance Plan. And we actually then formed a downtown business association called the City Center Partnership. And these aspects are going to be really important to the implementation of art. Oh, success, yes. What do I want to say about that? Thanks. So after 18 years, it's been 18 years since we came out with a plan, basically, almost 18. How do we judge Envision 2020? I would say overall the community really judges it as being an outstanding success. As you look around today, so much of what was outlined in that plan, no matter what the KPA was, much of that has been accomplished. The other thing that was really important in this, and I think is important going forward, is that the plan really emphasized, probably for the first time in many, many years, if ever, the importance of public and private partnerships. That the public can't do it alone, the cities, the counties, you know, local governments can't do it. You need to have that partnership. And so many of the initiatives that came out of this program out of Envision 2020 involve these important public-private partnerships. And those still exist today with very strong working relationships with those entities. So that was really important. I can also say that the plan has consistently been used over many, many years as a comprehensive tool, a roadmap for community planning and development. And last but not least, I always like to mention this because the plan really helped particularly elected officials and administrators during difficult financial times, especially in the financial crisis. We had the plan come out kind of the end of 2006. So without that plan and without the community saying these things are really important to us, it would have been very easy for council members to say, hey, our budget's really stretched, we can't do that, it doesn't make sense anymore. But with that plan at hand and so much community buy-in, they didn't do that. It gave them the courage, I think, to say, hey, we might not be able to do it as fast as we wanted, but it's still part of our plan, and it still is important. And so initiatives I always say they were delayed, but not derailed. So it's been very critical in that aspect as well. Okay, now Court.
So some little bit of overlapping with when Envision 2020 was starting. The city renewed our strategic plan in 2005, and through that engagement process, downtown revitalization also came up as a priority. And then in 2006, our city council appointed a task force that was charged with reviewing our revitalization and planning practices in the city center. The plan was ultimately completed in 2007, and we still refer to it today. There's several different plans that lie within that and serve as appendices, but we're still using it today, and it's had small projects and large-scale projects to help with revitalization. The picture here on the bottom left is a picture of the Riverfront Park that has that Betterstone Amphitheater. There's concerts there and other festivals that happen there. And the picture in the middle is in front of the Intergovernmental Center. One of the earlier pictures I showed at the beginning of this showed the Intergovernmental Center with a surface parking lot in front of it. So much pavement, we got rid of that pavement and added in this green space. There's a stage here. We have concerts that happen in the summer times. Even in the winter, there's events that happen outside. It's packed full of people. There's food trucks and vendors, and it's very popular use. And then we've also established different loan programs and deferred forgivable loans for rehab of our historic buildings. So just kind of a variety of different projects that have happened from that. This is just a graphic from the plan to give you an idea of the area of the city center. So we're standing about here. So you can see it was divided up into different areas of our downtown. There was an industrial area here called for redevelopment of that area, putting in public infrastructure to have a road go through there and utilities. It called for traffic calming measures to have bump outs, streetscaping improvements, a variety of different initiatives throughout our city center. One of them too, an area that kept coming up was identifying arts and culture activities and how that aids with revitalization of our downtown. And it's also an economic generator for our community. And so within the City Center Renaissance Plan, there were specific implementation tactics included about public art to develop a public art program, and also emphasizing that culture and art should be embedded in the city center. And like Tami was saying, just having these plans that are developed with so much public engagement from the start to the end, it builds that community support, and just the plan's been very successful. And so with the City Center Renaissance Plan, we have other focus plans that we've developed over the years to dive in deeper to some of the things that were discussed in the City Center Renaissance Plan. One of them is the Old Town Master Plan. So Old Town is on Riverfront Drive to the north. There's a historic district in Old Town that's on the National Register, and there were different challenges that were happening with there. Just the street through there, there's some narrow sidewalks, and so we did a lot of public engagement that was successful, involving the public in the beginning, so we're not just putting a plan together and then bringing it to the public and saying, what do you think? We're developing it alongside with the public before we've started anything. So they're telling us what's important, what challenges there are, what ideas they have, and that there's just so much energy from that plan. It culminated when we took it to our city council, and our council chambers were packed. There weren't enough chairs for people to sit in. They were all there for the Old Town Master Plan, and so once the council adopted the resolution adopting the plan, the room erupted in applause and cheering, and I've never seen that degree of excitement at a council chambers and at that packed before, and it was just really cool, all of the energy that was coming out from this planning process. And through that planning process, we had 4 different areas that we divided the plan into, and one of them was preservation and culture. And that talked about fostering different art opportunities and creative placemaking in Old Town, having murals there. I don't think there were any murals in Old Town before the Old Town Master Plan. Now there's dozens of murals in Old Town, having gathering spaces and encouraging events and festivals. And we have all of those. It's been really cool to see these things happen that are either community initiatives that are led or just naturally occurring. So some of these pictures are things that we've had some projects to help with, but other things that just kind of naturally occurred from business owners in Old Town, property owners. It's been really cool to see it evolve. Another plan that we've had was in 2017 and 2018. We updated an arts and culture plan we called it Get Creative Mankato. This is another planning process with a lot of community engagement to help identify what the different values are from the community. There are just some pictures from our final open house, but again, just all this dialogue with the public just reinforces how public art is still valued and important to the community over all these years. So we had a series of different events, an open house, and then we divided up the sections of the plan based on the public engagement. We developed the plan from the beginning with the public, and they helped guide that planning document. So those are the different sections that are listed at the bottom: community design, promotion and support, access to arts and culture, financial resources, and then talking about how the role is in tourism and the economic vitality of the community.
CityArt is the most recognized public art program within our community, and I have to say it is specifically designed for the downtown area. It has boundaries. Those were established during some of these planning efforts in both Lower North Mankato and City Center Mankato, and CityArt is all about the city center, so it's not a community-wide sort of program. The program is a direct result of Envision 2020 and the City Center Renaissance Plan and all the other plans that happened after that. It's a collaboration of Twin Rivers Council for the Arts and the City Center Partnership. At the time when it was initiated, I was very active. I was still working and involved in business, and I was on the City Center Partnership side, and I worked closely with the then director of Twin Rivers Arts Council. She has since left, but we were the founders of the CityArt program. And shortly after the Renaissance Plan, we really started to research and do a program of work and development, and we toured different communities. We researched art programs, public art programs that were successful, and we hoped to launch it during 2007. We were hoping we'd launch it in 2008, but once again, the Great Recession happened, and because these initiatives would require both public and private business financing to get these accomplished, it just wasn't good timing. So we put it on hold, and again I say it delayed, but did not derail. But we knew we needed to keep momentum going. There was so much momentum regarding the arts at that time after all these efforts. So we're like, what can we do to keep the public engaged and keep people excited about it? So we actually worked then with Minnesota State University, their urban planning and design department, and one of their classes, and they helped us do an actual inventory of existing art. And that was really quite amazing. There were things we didn't even know that were there, and there were mosaics, and there was a Gramlin beautiful sculpture. He's a world famous sculptor in one of our churches, things like that. So they helped us do that, and we announced the results, and it kept the public engaged until we were ready to launch it. We launched it officially then in 2010. By that time we figured things were stable enough in the economy that we could launch CityArt, and today it manages 4 different sub-programs, I call them: the CityArt Walking Sculpture Tour, CityArt on the Go, Silo Art, which is our newest project, and then the INFUSE project, which I'll talk about the first 3, and Courtney will talk about the next one. So the CityArt Walking Sculpture Tour, I'm not sure, have any of you been on it yet, or are you going on it? Okay, please do. It's our most widely recognized, longest running, and probably most successful to date program. We announced this program in 2010. This was our first program, as I said, and it required planning and solicitation for both in-kind donors, which were significant to this project, and financial sponsors, which included both public and private. Both the City of Mankato and North Mankato publicly support us with finances and with many in-kind services, and we're very, very grateful to them for that. Our CityArt, the Sculpture Tour program, also has tremendous community support, I can't even tell you, from critical vendors, such as the stone pedestals you'll see much of the art displayed on. Those were all donated to us by Vetter Stone and continue to be as the program grows or expands. Storage, we need storage for some of these big pieces. Moving trucks, that comes from Cato Moving and Storage, just amazing support. The cities, as I said, they provide workers, forklifts, welding trucks, a welder during our installation process. And then dozens of volunteers are involved, and then a lot of financial support from businesses who sponsor the art. So it is very much a community-wide project. We officially launched it then in May of 2011, which was our first installation, and May now 2024 will be our 14th annual installation of the program. As I said, it's our most widely recognized program. We are also, through the years, we became part of a partnership network. I won't get too into that, but we found other cities that have similar programs to us, and we formed a partnership with them, Mason City, Iowa being one, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. There's some communities in South Dakota, and we cooperate with the call to artists, exchanging pieces, things like that. So that's been very beneficial through the years as well as we've grown. So how does it work? I'm often asked that. I get a lot of calls from communities and they'll say, how does this program work exactly? Well, the first thing I'll tell you is it involves fundraising. Each year we fundraise for it through sponsorships and so forth. And I think our budget on a normal year is between 100 and 120,000. It just depends. So it's significant on an annual basis. Once fundraising is accomplished, we do have a call to artists from our network of artists. We put it out in August, and now October 1st is our deadline for submission, so we'll be going through all those and then selecting the art from the artists that have submitted. And once they're selected, the artists basically lend us their piece for a year. They lend us their piece. They do receive a financial stipend from us. We, right now, are paying $1,000 per piece, but it's a real bargain for us because many of these pieces are worth tens of thousands of dollars. But the artists do lend us this for the stipend and also for a chance to win additional prize money. We give prizes for the Best in Show, for bronzes, for Best in Show for other materials, a People's Choice Award, which is a popular vote award. We allow the public to vote. And then we have the grand prize is the Jurors Purchase Award. And we actually have a jury of committee members that go out and juror the art and then select a piece each year to purchase. And that's one of the big expenses to the program every year. Once we purchase it, it becomes part of our permanent art installation and is installed in the city center, Mankato or North Mankato. Installation happens in May of each year. It's always an exciting time, de-installation in late April. And like I said, it involves just many, many volunteers and significant support from the community. In its 14th year, the Sculpture Walk or Sculpture Tour is still highly regarded and very successful. It continues to receive a lot of support. Installation Day, for those of us who are in Mankato, we know it's a very exciting time. The community is really, really geared up for this. We have a lot of media coverage, full-page articles in the paper, showing the art and interviewing the artists. We have radio interviews, TV interviews. There's just a lot of excitement, and we start installing the art that morning at 6 a.m. with our volunteers and trucks and everything, because we're trying to not, disrupt traffic, is buzzing with people walking, viewing the art, families. It's very family friendly. It's free, so it's a really, really great activity. In addition to the sculptures, the City Center has added some other additional enhancements because of the art, and these include like the flower baskets we have, enhanced landscaping, streetscaping that Courtney mentioned, patios. Some of our bars and restaurants have expanded their patios and put in beautiful flowers and plants. So the art program has really helped enhance downtown. Since its founding, these are some interesting statistics. Over $4 million in art has been shown on our streets, which is pretty significant. We have sold or commissioned 40 pieces, including to private businesses, individuals, and to our jurors purchase program. 30 plus pieces have been added now to our permanent art collection in our community. Some people who commission them or donate them to, like Riverfront Park, we have a piece, a new piece is going to be installed in front of our historic post office that someone has commissioned. So we now have 30 additional pieces of art. And I think this is interesting. This is a statistic from Greater Mankato Growth, economic development arm of that organization, that since the program's founding, there's been a 414% increase in average total investment in our city center. So it's had a significant impact. The second program we manage is CityArt on the Go. And this program was added after a lot of the success demonstrated the first few years of the Walking Sculpture Tour. And this really includes infrastructure transformed to art on the go. This is geared to people driving, where the Walking Sculpture Tour is obviously geared to people walking, to pedestrians. So it includes 20 traffic boxes now that are painted or wrapped, vinyl wrapped with art. As Courtney mentioned, all the murals, we have substantial murals in our community now. The largest being the Muni mural, which is on the flood wall near our historic depot. There's another very vibrant, contemporary, large mural across from our children's museum. And on this particular program, the artwork that has been commissioned, we've commissioned through both adult artists and also children, which has been a really fun aspect to the program. And then our newest program, Silo Art. And I'm not sure if any of you have seen it, our magnificent silos at Art Mills, but if you haven't, please do before you leave our community. This has just been a very, very amazing project. A long, long time in the making. Both Envision 2020 and our Renaissance Plan and the Old Town Plan all identified the beautification of the silos as being really critical. So you can see down here how they looked before, and this is on a major thoroughfare in our downtown. They were just blank gray concrete. They were not pretty. So over a decade after it was identified, yes, the community wants something done with these. Over a decade, we made multiple attempts to work to get the silos beautified. But there were various issues involved. So before you start a project like this, there's things you need to know, right? Well, we did really consider some of this. First of all, they're working silos. This is a working mill. So they're climate controlled. They're, for moisture, for special heat. It's also because they're working, they're loading and unloading these silos. They're mammoth. You have train tracks right there, so you're unloading grains and things, and trucks, and it was very complicated. And then over this time period that we were trying to get something done, I think we had 4 different owners of the mill. It kept getting sold to different entities, and one of them being Cargill. Well, you can imagine, silos in Mankato, Minnesota, at their small mill here, it was not a top priority for a Cargill. So it wasn't really until 2016, that Art Mills purchased the silos. And Art Mills became very engaged in the community. They started coming to downtown meetings and things. they got enthused about the project. And so for the first time, we really, really felt, wow, something can happen. It was extremely complicated to get done. I mean, looking back, I'm not even sure how it was totally accomplished, to be honest. So you can imagine they are working, and there's a lot of different aspects to that, and so the legal work involved was just tremendous. Of course, Art Mills had their cadre of corporate lawyers and everything to work on their behalf. For us, we have a wonderful community volunteer. He's an excellent lawyer. He loves the arts. His name is Randy. I won't tell you his last name. You probably wouldn't appreciate that. But Randy worked on our behalf pro bono and negotiated this contract and got all the docs in order so we can make this happen. So we really owe him a debt of gratitude. During the time he was working on all that, we began researching various artists that could accomplish, and there are several out there that can do this type of scale. And we also then, put a comprehensive budget together, and again, this required significant fundraising. We worked with our community foundation extensively on the fundraising aspect, and our budget was $250,000. I'm happy to tell you we raised $300,000, which is good. So we have extra for the maintenance and for some other projects, kind of seed money that we hope to accomplish, that Wyatt will talk about. So in late 2018, after we got through all that, we commissioned world-renowned artist Guido Van Helten. He is from Australia, to complete the silo murals, and his work began in 2019. The artwork spans 8 silos. It's huge, and at that time it was his largest installation to date. Since that time, I believe he does have a larger one now. It's a dam somewhere in Asia. Anyway, I have to tell you, it was a leap of faith hiring him. Working with artists is really interesting experience. I'm a business person, even though I'm passionate about the arts. I think more business-like, but artists don't necessarily think that way at all. So Guido, we asked him. We were so impressed with his work. He, did all the submissions and sent us examples and everything. But he would not give us a concept of what he was going to design on the silos. And we decided to go for it anyway. He said, I don't come up with a concept until I immerse myself in the community, I find an inspiration, and that's how I determine what I'm going to paint. So he came here, he did immerse himself, and some community members took him to a major event which happens in our community, which is the annual Mankato Metawakan Powwow and Education Day. It involves all, I think it's 4th or 5th graders, I can't recall when my son did it, but all the kids from that grade participate in the powwow. It's a very wonderful learning experience, and a couple community members took him to this event, and he was like amazed. And this is a man who travels all over the world, but seeing the multicultural aspect of this powwow and the children, we have a large Somali population and a Hispanic population, and white students, and then dancing and engaging with all the Native Americans. He was just really seeing the joy and the congeniality between these groups. That became his inspiration. So that's the art he decided to paint on the silos. So anyway, as he said, it brings together, all the various aspects of inclusivity and diversity, and the importance of that. So we do have 2 additional silo art projects planned for the future. Wyatt will talk about one that's kind of been moved to the forefront, and then we hope someday to light the silos as well with our dark winters. It would be very nice if we could have them lighted for many months of the year. But it's another, $250,000 project to get that done. But all the planning is done for that. I've been actively engaged in leading that effort. It's just now the fundraising that we need to do. So Courtney, I'll turn it over to you for INFUSE.
So INFUSE is another program with CityArt. It started with the Artists on Main Street program, which was part of Rethos and their Minnesota Main Street program. Our City Center partnership is a designated Minnesota Main Street community. And so the program was in partnership with Springboard for the Arts, and there was financial support from the Bush Foundation. And through that program, it was a process of identifying a different challenge that you have in your downtown and how to address that through public art and creative placemaking, and they helped us through that process. And so we were part of that initial pilot group with City Center Partnership, Twin Rivers, and then City of Mankato. And that initial year was 2018, and so that was a couple years after our Old Town Master Plan, and within that plan, just showing again like the importance of all these different planning documents, that plan identified activating the alleyways as a goal in Old Town. And so we took that and ran with that, and that was what our challenge was in Old Town. And so we had a $15,000 grant, and that was the goal was to have 10 to 15 small artist-led projects. In that program, it was just really cool to see the variety of proposals. So we did a call for proposals. They came in from local artists. They came from property owners of buildings in Old Town that probably wouldn't associate themselves as an artist. But you can see we had a variety of different projects. We had a community mural here. I think they've redone it since, but we had a local artist who stenciled the mandalas, and then anybody from the public could come and then paint within that. He did some cleanup work after that, but it was really cool, and a lot of people came and painted on that. It was really fun to see that. We had a jam session where people could bring their instruments and then play together just kind of informally in Old Town. This was the one from one of our property owners. We called it a little bit of Paris, and so she added some flower baskets out by her windows and just a little seating area and a little chalkboard with just some improvements or enhancements to the back of her building. In the top right corner, there's a chalk art box that was installed in one of our city surface parking lots. So there's chalk in there, and people can color in the parking lots. It's something you would find kind of unexpected. All of these things are just kind of unexpected. You don't expect to see these kind of things in the alleys. There were pop-up theater productions from different shows that had scenes that took place in the alleyways that were reenacted. There was a letterpress that you could come into. So just a wide variety of different projects, and just seeing that excitement just carrying off the Old Town Plan was cool to see too, and all these different types of projects feeding off. So each year we pick a different theme or project idea. So we're still doing this INFUSE, but now it's the seed money from the grant has weaned off, so now it's just self-funded through CityArt to keep this going forward. And then at the city, just a couple examples of different projects that we've had. You can check with your local regional arts council. Ours here in Mankato is Prairie Lakes. They have grants that cities can apply for. I think nonprofit organizations might be able to apply for them as well. But we received a grant through them, and then the city had some matching funds for beautification efforts that were used. So there was this blank concrete retaining wall along Riverfront Drive. Riverfront Drive is heavily trafficked. You would never notice this retaining wall. I remember when this project came up, I was like, where's the retaining wall? And I'm from Mankato, and I still couldn't picture where it was. But so we took that and worked with the local artists to bring some life to this empty retaining wall. Another one, when we had our addition to the Civic Center, part of that budget included creating a little pocket park. Another thing that had been talked about in these different plans that we've been discussing was to have more green space in our downtown. And so creating this little pocket park. We had Vetterstone, who donates the stone for our sculpture walk. They graciously donated the stone for the wall in this pocket park. They're just very generous donor who support the arts in Mankato. We commissioned a Minnesota artist to create the river walls. So he added this topographical depiction of the Minnesota River, and then it's lit up at night when it gets dark out. And then we had worked with Twin Rivers to release an RFP to get submissions from Minnesota artists to create a gathering space that builds off of Greg Mueller's Riverwall. And so the proposal that was selected was Corinne Woman's arc span. And so it was her, there's 3 benches that she created that's similar materials as the Riverwall, the cord and steel, carrying that over. And the 3 bridges signify the 3 different the 3 benches signify the 3 bridges that cross the Minnesota River in Mankato. And then the other program I was going to talk about is our community grant program through the city. They're small grants. They range from $2,500 to $5,000. We have different categories that Mankato residents or Mankato nonprofit organizations can apply for. So there's a section. There's one of the categories is public art and beautification. And so the funding amounts, they vary each year. It's something that our city council sets, but it's ranged from, you can see, $7,800 to a little over $16,000. So there's several of these grants that get awarded each year. And then photographed are a couple examples of some of those public art projects. The mural on the bottom, that was part of a CityArt project. So these have support through other programs too. But painting that a section of the flood wall. And then on the top, the watershed compass is at Riverfront Park. It lists all of or depicts the rivers in the area, and then they worked with the local Mdewakanton tribe to have the Dakota language on that, so I have collaborated with them in making that piece as well.
Alright, so yeah, my name's Wyatt. I'm with Twin Rivers Council for the Arts. So we operate out of the Mankato area. We tend to operate a little bit differently than most of the regional arts councils, where regional arts councils are very much supporting organizations and individuals through financial means with grants and things like that. We operate out of the Mankato area, providing programming, development opportunities for artists, as well as we are the Arts Commission for the cities of Mankato and North Mankato. So the cities will work with us when they have identified public art projects or when they need ideas for art that should go in a public space or how to find artists. We work with them a lot on that. So yeah, as the Arts Council, we were appointed by North Mankato and Mankato back in 2011. The intent of this is to make public art more of a prominent feature of the Mankato area. So we help identify areas that could benefit from public art. We help to identify artists who meet public art needs. We work with the city and different businesses to publish RFPs and RFQs to find those artists. And yeah. As far as supporting the arts community, that is one of the big kind of cornerstones of what Twin Rivers as an organization is about. Mankato is very fortunate to have a large, active, creative community in the area. So one of the big things that we do is promote as many opportunities as we can to kind of uplift those creatives as they establish themselves and then go out into the world and spread their art. So 2 main ventures that we support our artists through is Shop Art Midwest. It is a digital platform for artists and creatives to set up a little storefront or gallery where they can show off their work. People can reach out to them directly to inquire about purchasing. It's completely commission free. We don't handle any of the transactions. When folks reach out to an artist, they're dealing with that artist, so 100% of the sales go to that individual. In addition to that, it's also a resource for the community. We host a calendar of all the regional art events that are going on, as well as different artist opportunities. We kind of share links to the regional arts councils that have grant opportunities or different calls for art that are out. We will post them there. And then more locally, we have our Artist Associate program. This is where we provide a lot of our local artists, both emerging and established, with a lot of the tools and resources they need to further their craft through community building efforts like our artist meetups and our more professional development workshops that artists can go to learn things like how do you set up a website to show off your work, or how do you price your work. One of the things I never realized until I started working more with artists, no one really tells you how to value these things that you put hours of your time into and you shape and you create. So it's resources like that that we really try and bring to our creatives in the community. Public art, as you've heard through both of my colleagues, is incredibly important. I've lived in Mankato forever. Walking around downtown isn't something we ever did as a family because there wasn't anything to see, but now I've got families that call me like 5 times a week to say, hey, where are the sculptures? When can we view them? Are there any other things we should check out? We're out and about. I work out of the downtown area and I see folks walking around all of the time. It draws people into our community from afar and it gives our community something to be proud of. As I'm sure you all know, communities are kind of in a constant state of change. Mankato is a completely different place than it was 2, 3, 5 years ago, and a much different place than it was 10, 15 years ago. And art has a really unique way of connecting people across generations. It's something that we can all appreciate, and it really maps out the story of where we've come. Mankato art has evolved in the years to come. We have a lot of limestone, or I grew up calling it Kasota stone because it's very specific to the area, sculptures that are dotted throughout the town. Murals are on the rise because we've been blessed with a lot of mural artists who are prominent in the area. Art grows, and it's a medium through which different people tell the story of the community. The silos are an excellent representation of that. It is a diverse population of kids dancing because dance is one of the ways that kids engage with each other. So promoting public art in your community is just an excellent way of tying people to it, even once they've moved on and go out and about. They have that one thing that they remember prominently when they were in town. It's the silos or the bison sculpture or the mural along the river that just sticks prominently in their mind and it reminds them that that is home. Yeah, so future initiatives that Twin Rivers is undertaking. Tami touched on a couple of these. The big one that I'm working on right now is our Silo Art Immersive Experience. These silos were a phenomenally massive project, and they wrapped up right in time for a pandemic to hit the world, so we didn't really have anything to bring the community together to be like, look at this. So we are working on launching an immersive experience in Mankato specific to this. Guido's work is ridiculously specific. He doesn't do anything like Tami said. Ahead of time, he immerses himself in the communities. When he was in town, he'd pop into the local pubs or restaurants and just sit down with folks and talk to them. He went to events like the Powwow Education Day, and he really got a feel for the community, and that's something that we know now because it's fresh, but we want to remain prominent with people. Art is phenomenal to see when it's finished, but the process through which it's created is just as incredible. So through this immersive experience, it is a way to connect the public more deeply to this art that has become a staple of their lives. And then once it has done its stint here in Mankato, the intent is to break it up and send it to a lot of the local schools around the area so that even if you can't get to Mankato to see this experience, we can still bring it to kids and further that learning around the arts.
This is just an example just to help keep talking about what we've been discussing on the impact of what the arts has. We worked with Creative Minnesota. They do these economic impact studies. We had one completed in 2019, so it's a few years old now, but through that study, they found that the total economic impact from the City of Mankato organizations and nonprofit audience is over $20 million each year. It just shows, if you're looking for something to show what impact the arts can have, and if you're focusing that too on your downtown, the vast majority of all of our arts and culture products, events, performances take place in our downtown. So it's bringing people downtown, and it is contributing to our downtown revitalization. So these are just the snapshots of what they produced through that study. And we have about 5 minutes if there's any questions. Yes.
How do you handle with murals in your historic districts? I know we have the stipulation in our guidelines that states if masonry is not painted, it can't be. Did you have any similar hurdles, or how did you handle that?
Yeah, so we have some buildings that are locally designated in our downtown. So those, like, any changes or alterations proposed for those locally designated buildings would have to go to our Heritage Preservation Commission. I don't believe that they would allow a painted mural, maybe on the backs of the building, but we do have some design guidelines in place. I'm sorry, I can't recall the specifics of them, but they talk about those things. Some of the murals too that we have downtown are on actually kind of newer buildings, not our historic buildings. That historic district that we have is 2 blocks, but the old town spans 6, I believe it's 6 different blocks, or about 5-6 blocks. So that can come up. I know there's been discussion about sometimes people want to do murals on the fronts of the buildings, and that wouldn't work on the fronts of the buildings. It's something that we have to review on a case-by-case basis, and something that we work with Twin Rivers Council for the Arts as well, and our Heritage Preservation Commission.
Do you have an ordinance? I have a couple, 3 questions here. I could ask them all at one time and some tie it together. Do you have an ordinance for art, for the murals? And how do you, good art, or what's commonly accepted, is easy. It's the hard part is to say no to bad art. And how do you judge it?
We don't have an ordinance on art. So any public art that's proposed, I guess one thing that we do have in our ordinance is that there can't be any signage that's painted on buildings or advertisements. And so whenever we get a proposal, it goes to Twin Rivers, our Arts Council. They review it and make a determination if it's public art or not. But yeah, art is in the eye of the beholder. People